tunzo kele chiwe tumbe ko tayen do ye ra ko me song ma lu shi ji shi be sha je so de na sha je 준준나리아 대전되는 예ver 신도가 이게 등주 도가 줘봐 걔들 딜라 한번 맞으면 친디 안다 줘도 갈라 줘서 말아도 최초발라 대알와 등지 강간 좀배 등지에 유래내 갑딜라서 봐 대전되는 예ver 신도가 등지 심지어 상말에 예대 신도 가고도 있는 가라서 저항하마게 조금만 부사제 교화만 부사제 더랬는데 다른 밀리 디에터는 그 기부 때 가르쳐주기는 좀더 그래서 기부 좀더 가지고 가라서 기부 때 가르쳐줘야 그랬잖아. 저도 기부받이 심지어 현다게 탑심에 제동게 교육군세 연대군대기 산재 요구가 토벌잖아. 디에터시에 가지고 제도에 와서 다들 근데 말전에 이바디 제비나야 코에 동네를 안코알에 타래 기분 정기 상무 근데 탑시잖아요. 영어세 지금 탑시제도 그래서 어다 저래 매나야 겨치마 예 손을 믿어하시게 어디에 된지 지금 총회에 된다로 이제 좀 나도 그래서 다 강다 겨치마들이 내 손을 맞동하셔 하다 매일매일 개발센터 뒤에는 안에 다루어 삼제집을 두야 탑시 다른 지역으로 해서 그거
It is said by the great Buddhist author Shantideva in his book Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life that we have obtained this precious human birth in the sense where we can extract the greatest meaning out of this life, where we have all the facilities intact in terms of your the soundness of your mind, in terms of the intelligence that you have. Then in terms of all of the facilities. So we are very fortunate due to our past accumulation of merit, we're able to achieve such the human birth. So with this human birth, then the author, the Bodhisattva Shantideva, he went further by saying that, so with this vessel of the human birth, we should put all our efforts to achieve what is in the mind, what you intend to achieve. So, what kind of achievements, what kind of goals can we expect to achieve by after having obtained this precious human birth, which has tremendous power and potential to achieve those goals? And the kinds of the goal is of three kinds. Three. One is the goal in terms of full enlightenment or the state of perfection within oneself, where one is able to cleanse all the mental defilements, where one is able to achieve all the good qualities of perfection, so that you're endowed to help not only yourself but all other sentient beings. So this is the supreme achievement or the goal that we can aspire to achieve. But the second one, if not that, then at least we can achieve one can aspire to achieve a personal liberation or nirvana. So where you don't have to suffer in samsara anymore. This is the second goal. And the third one, even if you may not be able to work so hard to achieve these two goals, but still with this precious human birth, we can aspire to achieve at least good human birth or good birth next time. So this is known as the three beings or three kinds of practitioners with three varying mental calibers. So the one is the supreme caliber who can aim to achieve full enlightenment or Buddhahood. And the second one is the mediocre caliber who can seek to achieve personal liberation. And the third one, the least one who can aspire to achieve a favorable rebirth the next time. So, and one person, and on the other hand, we can ask, each one of us can aim to achieve all three. So first, to achieve the favorable rebirth in the next life, So meanwhile, seeking to achieve nirvana and Buddhahood. So this is the meaning of extracting the greatest meaning out of this precious human birth.
어, 제가 아주 욕중신 계시나 권진도 당분에 대윤아요. 당에 야 친지 정말 그래만 부접제 개버친구 시우시에서 타시베네. 제삼살 삼루다도 거예요라. 다다도 거기 ABCD 시기요 말때 이제 제부상서 삼고거든요. 근데 생각하죠. 세대 자전 남사 톡톡 말때 제가 좋아해요 말아. 제가 정말 여러 대좀 튜니 셈되고 류젠로마도 셈되 균데 튜제로 이게 그 탐지심에 공부하시. 토바치야 삼자. 생기 되는 주통배기배 내주 강가 생계 랑도리네 사무답지 생계게 20배 몽바세 탐지심에 공부하시 토바치고 그래 삼자. 배 다도 미유들 샤고도. 아주 데리아 나베다가 내시지입니다. 자수비 20배 몽바들 시집들 자시야도. 아니 녀모들 자시야도. 자, 20배 몽바들 장로 내게 시시들이 자좀바 산지지 고한테 미유를 샤. 어디네? 녀모베타 대좀배 타로토게 고아래 타로토게. 이 미유니버들 샤. 아니 다다 녀모바다 시집지가 강가 빵 맞투나야. 다 왕게 현을 차방네. 저와 정말 밀류배 균이 하더네. 이제 또 지금 삼사가 심수단도에 제토에 와라. 어떻게 보여라.
So here, let's take an example of a young child who's very young, just going to the first class 1. So although the child may not know anything, may not know A, B, C, D, anything, but then at least this child can aspire, put in his or her mind as to what to achieve eventually, to finish class 10, 12, college, university, and finally doing a PhD and all these things. So these things, although the child may not know anything at this moment, but then can plan to achieve the state of the highest culmination, the culmination of the highest degree of the academic degree. So likewise, at this moment, although we may not be having that, we may not have that state of perfection as yet, but then we can we can aspire to achieve those higher states. For example, like the state of the Buddhahood, which is defined as a state where you are totally freed of all flaws and be endowed with all good qualities for the benefit of all sentient beings. So where you achieve a state of omniscience, a state where you know each and everything, every atom of the universe. One thing. And then in the parlance of Buddhism, there's a mention of enemy. So unlike how we understand enemy in a very vernacular sense, in the Buddhist context, enemy is not external enemy; it is the internal enemy. Enemy which actually they forbids us from achieving these higher states. So what are these enemies which forbids us, which forbid us from achieving the higher goals? So one is in terms of the cognitive obscuration, and the other one is in terms of the afflictive obscurations. So the first one, the cognitive obscuration. What does it mean by cognitive obscuration? Cognitive meaning the element of knowing things. So at this moment, we are inept to know all phenomena. Although we have the potential, but we don't know these phenomena as yet. So what forbids us from acquiring that knowledge of all phenomena is known as a cognitive obscuration. So with this cognitive obscuration, you are being stopped from achieving the highest of enlightenment or Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. And whereas the afflictive obscuration is the one which obscures you from achieving liberation or nirvana. So we see that these are the two real enemies. And then at this moment, although we are unable to combat, we are unable to win over these two enemies, but then we can plan, we can keep that as a plan to overcome the enemies. And then even though we may not be able to overcome the two, now, then at least by at least we try to reach these two goals. May not be in this life, but we start in this life, and then we think of bringing the end to this journey of the enlightenment or nirvana in the due course of time, after a few lifetimes. So meanwhile, we need to think of engaging in practices of abstaining from harming others. So by abstaining from harming others, so there you are accumulating karma, so that you will be able to take a favorable rebirth in the later lives. So we see that there are three goals. One, by engaging in the practice of abstinence, abstaining from the harming others, we achieve the goal of favorable rebirth next time. And then by practicing to combat the afflictive obscurations, we seek to achieve, expect to achieve nirvana. And by combating with the cognitive obscuration, we can achieve full enlightenment or Buddhahood. So here, again in the Pathans of Buddhism, there's a mention of the two means by which to achieve our goals. The two means are the wisdom and the method. So the method consisting of compassion and so forth, compassion, kindness, and so forth, whereas the wisdom comprises of the wisdom to see the reality as it is. So it is by cultivating the wisdom that this light of the wisdom, when that is ignited, that the darkness of the ignorance will be eliminated. The ignorance will be eliminated. And then by cultivating compassion and so forth, we can eliminate the sense of aversion and excessive attachment towards others. So then that kind of the dualistic, very negative, destructive, dualistic way of thinking, polarized way of thinking, seeing some as very affectionate and others as repulsive. So that kind of the feeling of discrimination will be abandoned, can be abandoned through the cultivating the method side of the path, which is compassion and so forth. So that is possible only through bringing about a change in your mind. So it is for this reason that the mantra which you recited, Om Ye Dharma, Hedu Prabhava, Hetunde, Shantadagadu. So that mantra, so there what it says is that if you know the meaning of this mantra, it says all phenomena arises from their causes, and the causes are taught by the Tathagata. So what it is saying is that, so whether it is happiness which you are seeking, or whether it is the misery which you shun, they all arise from their respective causes. So what these causes are, they are rightly indicated too by the Tathagata or the Buddha. Then how to eliminate the causes of the undesirable result, the causes which gives rise to the pains, fears, agony, mourning, and so forth. So these are what these are and how to abandon these. So these, as pointed to earlier, these finally they arise from what is known as the ignorance, viewing things as intrinsically real. So this ignorance, if we get rid of, then all these affective emotions, such as attachment and so forth, which give rise to suffering, which give rise to agony, they will be eliminated. So this ignorance, how this ignorance can be eliminated, it is through cultivating the wisdom. So the wisdom is to be cultivated. So then, the third line which says that the cessation of the causes as well is taught by the great seer. So here the cessation of the causes referring to the causes, in particularly the ignorance, in the form of the ignorance which is responsible to all the miseries. So how that can be eliminated, how the cessation of that can be brought forth is taught by the great seer referring to the Buddha. So we see that whether it is the misery or whether it is the happiness, which has a direct impact on you, the happiness which you seek and the misery which you shun. So if you want to have happiness, if you want to shun misery, what we should be doing is that we should tackle our mind. So therefore we need to know how to tackle our mind in a proper way, so that the intended desire which you wish to achieve will be achieved, and what you like to shun can be eliminated. So we see that it is that finally it is in your own hand. Whether you want to experience happiness or you will be plunged into misery, it is all in our hands. So this is the message given here. So with that in mind, we listen to the discourse. So in the text by Aryadeva, the text known as the 400 stanzas. So there he pointed out three kinds of dharma practice. One in the form of sound, so utterance of the mantra and so forth. So that is the dharma. So this is one way of understanding what dharma is. And the other one is in the form of physical penances that one goes through. So these are the austerity or the penances. So these are pointed to as, this is a dharma practice. And the third one is the dharma in relation not to the sound, not to the physicality, but to the mind. So the dharma which the Buddha propounded is the dharma of the mind. So where the mind needs to be tamed, the mind needs to be transformed. So because that of the three, the third one is the most difficult one, the dharma of the mind. This is the most difficult one because it is very difficult. It is only the consistent people of perseverance, only they can engage. So this is how we should understand what dharma is.
so the Pungu Nata, Chi, Joata, Kanga, the Turkish Telly, so some person tell you something, she was Turkish and tell the Turkish and Pesach, Nangaragi, years of Zarach, Rawachas and Nangaragi, tell you sometimes. Didn't the low daughter, what it? Low Carsore, Muslim Chipper, Loxis, but the Loxi Mabujang has a Julia. It is not Loxis. Young Yula Chinjilo, Loxis.
So here, so now we see that since that it is the mind finally which determines whether you are going to be in a happy state or in a miserable state. So the mind needs to be understood so well. It is for this reason that in the there is the teaching on what is known as the sevenfold division of the mind. So if you turn to page 62, if you turn to page 62 of the small booklet, page 62 of the smaller book, the second section, which says sevenfold division of the mind. So we begin from in the reverse order, from point 7 upward, from bottom up. So is the wrong consciousness. The wrong consciousness. So this wrong consciousness is what predominates us. This wrong consciousness is what predominates us. You may be wondering as to what exactly it means by a wrong consciousness. Wrong consciousness is a mind whose apprehension of the object does not tally with the reality, who engages in an erroneous way. The mind which engages with the object in an erroneous way, in a wrong way. This is known as wrong consciousness. And this wrong consciousness can be of varying kinds. One would be like, say we have a perception. It's not something external. It is all there within ourselves. So the first one is like you viewing yourself as a permanent entity. As a permanent entity. So we think that, oh, I existed 20 years ago. I existed 40 years ago, right? So in actuality, what is happening within your mind is that you actually merge the two, or you view the two different times as the same. So what you were 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, and what you're now, the two selves of the two different times, you merge and then you equate the two. But in actuality, it is a wrong way of engagement. So this mind engages in a wrong way. The fact that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, you were very young, and now you are 20 years older. So this is an indication that you are not permanent, you are changing. Whereas we have a very strong feeling that, oh, I existed 20 years ago, I existed 30 years ago. So this is a clear indication of the wrong, erroneous perception or a wrong view which wrongly engages in the object that the self is permanent. This is one erroneous view. And another erroneous mind could be like viewing the self to be so independent. The self, this person, the self, as so independent, as to be an independent entity, to be an intrinsic entity. So this is also another erroneous way of thinking. The fact is that this mind, instead of being an independent, it is dependent. And instead of being intrinsic, it is lacking intrinsicality. So here, as for this erroneous view or the wrong mind in relation to viewing the self to be permanent, so there, if you reflect in a very sensible way, then you try to raise questions. You try to raise questions whether I'm permanent. your instinctual thought tells you that you are permanent. Oh, I'm permanent. But then if you double check whether this self is permanent, whether you are permanent, then you end up with lots of internal contradictions. Say, if I'm permanent, then I never change. If I don't change, I don't have to depend on anything. No other causes can change me. So if no other causes can change me, then I'm not dependent on any other factors or any other causes. So if I'm not dependent on any other causes, then I cannot be dependent on the external things such as the food and so forth and the environment, and nor will I be dependent on my internal biological components. So, but the fact that I'm dependent on these factors is an indication that I am not a permanent entity. I'm a changing entity. So then you see that you end up yourself in some qualms. You end up in, getting trapped in qualms. So with these qualms, then what happens is that you will start doubting in your own belief system whether the self is permanent or not. So a doubt will arise. So if you look at the 7 points out of the 7, the 6th one, the 7th one is the wrong consciousness, and then through reflection, so we can uplift ourselves from the wrong consciousness, state of the wrong consciousness, to the state of the doubting consciousness. So we are now being uplifted or upgraded in terms of our thinking. So this upliftment can happen only through reflection. Without reflection, if we simply be under the sway of our intuitive or erroneous thoughts, then we can never be uplifted in terms of this journey. So then we see that in some cases, some people, right from the beginning, they may have the feeling, oh, I'm not permanent, I'm impermanent, but then not necessarily out of deeper reflection or deeper contemplation. It may be more like you hear someone saying that everything is impermanent, and then you start believing that you're also impermanent. But then if you are asked, emphatically you are asked as to what makes you think that you are impermanent, then you have no proper answer. So which means that although this belief that you are impermanent is accurate, but it has no sound ground. So this is known as correct assumption, which is point 4, correct assumption. So even with you, on that level, point 4, correct assumption, then if somebody asks you, the more emphatically with the questions as to what made you think that you are impermanent, then you may not have proper answer, and instead of getting answer, you may again fall back in doubt.
Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe Medava Yinguri. Yingua Karesna, Ying Jabdo. Lawyer and Geshe Yeshe in Jitu, I just tell them stay. Geshe Yeshe Jim and in the laundry on Yongumara. There's some way to Umar, we have the never jetting. At the end of today's out the door, what somebody could I think ya, Jekudu, to yield again. They are for a timber some tattoo, and more into it. To the king, I tell you, I think you could be like you. What in the day I was some education Jim Medava ended to the king to the king Chevy and Medava Yingo. That what did you the king swear your marvelous? But the day some of that doing it, I want that without Resha, some kitchen in University, there is some Geshe Yeshe, Semen Geshe Yeshe, Chivas. Die had some of you saying that some of the Papa Shabashin or that Resha some. Touch doing Yeshe, some Jungin Geshe Yeshe.
Okay, now so now to gain conviction in this, as of now we are on the correct assumption. So now what we need to do is that we need to resort to or employ reasoning to gain conviction in your belief system. So to gain conviction with the matter of the self, whether self is permanent or impermanent. So when we employ reasoning to see whether the self is permanent or the permanent or impermanent, then we see that there are actually 3 steps. One is the learning through the hearing, or the wisdom derived through hearing. And the second one is the wisdom derived through reflection. And the third one is the wisdom derived through meditation. So the first one, the wisdom derived through learning. So there, you simply try to learn from someone else. And then you hear that, oh, the self is not permanent, it is impermanent. So this is what you've heard. So this is just the wisdom derived through learning. And then it is not sufficient to remain like that. We need to subject the same belief that the self is impermanent to analysis. So with very fine analysis, then we see that the self, whether it is impermanent or whether it is permanent, then you give the reasonings that the self, instead of being impermanent, it should be momentarily changing. The opposite of permanence is change, momentary change. So the self should have momentary changes within the self, because the self is a derivative, is a result of the causes and conditions. So if something is causally dependent, then how can it possibly be non-changing or be permanent? Causally dependent meaning, say you are dependent on the food, external elements, and we are also dependent on the internal elements, such as your bodily components. So the moment something goes wrong with external elements or the internal elements, then the self ceases to exist. You die. The person dies. So this is a clear indication that this self is impermanent. Is impermanent because it is dependent on the causes and conditions for its survival. Is a clear indication that it is dependent on causes and conditions. Being dependent on causes and conditions, it should have the nature of changing. So having the nature of changing connotes absent of being permanent. So these are the reasonings which we employ to gain conviction. And then finally, when you gain a conviction, deep conviction, unshakable conviction that the self is indeed impermanent, at that point you have updated or upgraded yourself to the point number 2, which is inferential cognition. So for the first time, you get a deep conviction through reasoning, through valid reasoning, that, oh, indeed, the self is impermanent. You have upgraded yourself to the next point, which is inferential cognition. A cognition where you are able to infer that the self is impermanent instead of being permanent.
Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe.
So this experience of the deep conviction in the form of inferential cognition, which you're able to infer the subject matter, whether the self is impermanent or permanent. So the habituation in this practice of the inferential cognizers, that will finally become a very untainted experience of the direct perception, which is a very heightened state, heightened experience of the knowledge of the object, which is the finer version of the inferential cognition. And then the direct perception, which is the first one, and the second one, which is the inferential cognition, both are referred to as valid cognition. So within the valid cognition, we see that there's the initial stage and the follow with the successive stages. Initial stage and the subsequent stages. So the initial stage is technically referred to as the prime cognition, which is the first and the second, and then the remaining, the second moment down, second and third, and all the way down, they are referred to as the subsequent cognition, which is point number 3, subsequent cognition.
Oh, that was some said, yeah. And some of the combination between the double gong. And the top body. From changing Angi, that the provision of that, some time ago, and then some without anybody so long, Angi, you would enjoy your other. You can't talk about it, the look on Jones. Why, Passion was somebody. At the end of the company, originally, I'm absolutely Minamgi, Shiba, Utah, Nation, pay, pass some of the shoot at Yam versus so Nagas to chat on it in the child. It is a Tom Miss, Musum say. I want to change the Medaba to Neta Musum to toss, Najo Musum Sigua, Najo Congo Comni, Musum. What is Chibati and Musum to So here, to be more precise between the point 1 and the 2, the 2 which is inferential and the 1 which is direct perception. So here, the inferential in relation to seeing the self as impermanent, So there, at this point, imagine we have gained the conviction for the first time. Oh, indeed, I now realize that the self is not permanent, it is impermanent. So this is still at the level of the inference. You are only by resorting to the reasonings that this conviction arises. Independent of the reasonings, this conviction does not arise in you. So this means that you are still in the inferential cognition level. And then, through further habituation in this meditation, that the self is impermanent. The self is impermanent. So the more you meditate on that, the more you habituate in this practice, then what was initially conceptual in your mind, that the self is impermanent, this understanding which is so conceptual initially, through further habituation, then like a dream. In the dream, where you see objects without any effort. So you don't put any effort. You don't have to put any effort to see, in the dream, to have the vision of the things so vividly. It is so spontaneously coming in our mind. Likewise, the self viewed as impermanent, initially you require the effort, which is known as the inferential cognition. Then through habituation or familiarization, we see that you reach a level whereby the self being impermanent will come to you so vividly in your mind's eye without any effort. Effortlessly or spontaneously, a vivid experience of the self to be impermanent will come to your mind. So this is known as direct perception. Direct perception meaning where it is not in the thought process, on the level of the thought process. It is in the non-conceptual level, or the experience of the object. So this non-conceptual experience, which is also referred to as the direct perception, direct experience, in relation to subtle objects, such as the impermanence of the self and so forth, they are typically referred to as the yogic direct perception. 무슨 세대 또 받은 텐션 맞추어야 될 것이고. 뒤에서 고텔이야 원본 무슨 세 가지고 미기 무슨 송진왕 전지왕 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 레전드로 왕 세. 또 가고 원본시가 들어야 돼. 무슨 여기야 송진왕이다. 그래서 무슨 세대라. 그래서 또 받은 텐션 맞추어야 될 것이. 무슨 세대. 내가 왕이 원본 무슨 세 송진왕이 자지고 되나죠. 미기 통대 카도도 이통해야 될 자대 그래서 가고 무슨 세대라. 또 받은 텐션 맞추어야 될 것이. 똑같이 해야 될 건지 그러시네. 근데 오늘도 새로 제재 매매제재. 근데 오늘도 송년도 sem shashi, pala nga zu tanda kambe chilo samlu tambe ne, sem shargira. Kambe chilo ngone de usun toa ne shi, katu tati so, katu tungu yo mara. Ina di drabuji sem liya shargidwa. Nanga tokbe sumye sikidwa, kwa jo yu de drabuji susu sem liya shargidwa. Oti de nawa de samlu tangje ne, pa samlu tangge de tokwa sikidwa. Dunji sikidwa, den ngone de katu imba bache, den jin drabuji sumye shi This is the channel of the some the top was it. Number top was pass some time. Now there is a search at the show, the tendency as a pass some time. Number top was. You soon did the general you got out the Katulia, Shadow Nation, not to maybe Sultan Nation. I'm joking, Chateau Nation for Katulia, Musum Sigma.
So here, the direct perception. The direct perception. To know exactly, very precisely as to what direct perception is, the first point, point one, direct perception, it is defined as a perception which is non-erroneous and which is freed of conceptualization. A non-erroneous perception which is freed of conceptualization. Right? So here we need to know what exactly it means by a conceptualization or concepts. Better would be a thought or a conceptualization. So we need to know what conceptualization means. Once you know what conceptualization means, then you will see within your mind which of the mind is free, which of the minds are freed of conceptualization or thoughts, and which are tainted by the thoughts. So first the conceptualization or the thought. What exactly it means by thought, or what exactly it means by conceptualization. So these two we can take as synonymous. So the thought is a mind, is a mental state which engages with the object through the generic image, through the mental image or the generic image. So an example would be like, so while you are here in this hall, you can still think of the outside this hall. When you came to this hall from outside, you could conceptualize what the outside is like at this moment while you are still inside. So there, something comes to your mind, and in the form of outside. Okay, so that is outside. So it is not the real outside. It's the mental image of the outside comes to your mind. Mental image comes to your mind. So this mind engages with the outside, the object, for example, flower, whatever, outside, through this mental image. So any mind which engages with the object through the mental image is referred to as a conceptual mind or a thought, right? So a direct perception should be a mind which is freed of such a thought. So for example, if you look at the table here right in front of you, so there it is very direct. You don't have to create a mental image. It is very direct. You engage with the table very directly. So this is those minds which engages with the object without resorting to the mental image is referred to as a direct perception. Say for example, as for the direct perception, there are several kinds. So if you look at the page 62, again the same page 62 of the same book, then in the third section we have four types of direct perceptions. The first one is sense direct perceptions, referring to all the perceptions related to the five senses. So the detailed version you will find on the next page 63, the first section, 5 types of sense direct perceptions. So we say we have the 5 senses. The first one is the eye sense consciousness, visual sense consciousness, and second one is the auditory, the sound, And third one is the olfactory, which is the smell, and the gustatory, which is the taste, and the tactile sense consciousness, which is the bodily. So there are the 5 sense direct perceptions. So then on page 62, the second kind of the direct perception is the mental direct perception. So now it's not sensory. So the first one is the sensory. There are 5 sensory direct perceptions. Now there's a mental. As opposed to the senses, it is the mental. So within the mental, we see that while there are so many of the conceptual mental consciousnesses, but there's also the direct perceptions of the mental direct perception as well. So the mental direct perception constitute a moment of the mental state. So when you look at the flower for like 5 seconds, if you look at the flower, then you close your eyes, then your mind, the 6th, the 5 sensory consciousnesses, and the 6th mental consciousness. So that what you have seen by your eyes for 5 seconds, that is very briefly reflected in your mental state. In a very, very clear, the way your eyes could see that, your mind could also see that. But that duration is so brief. It is like it is known as a single moment, a very instantaneous moment of the mental consciousness, which is referred to as a mental direct perception. So now if you look at page 62, the third section, the 4 types of direct perception, we are done with the sense direct perception, mental direct perception, and now we're doing the self-cognizant direct perception. Self-cognizant direct perception, or the self-awareness. So what is that like? It is, the analogy is given yesterday of the light. So what illuminates external objects? Without the light, we cannot see the external objects. So we see that the external objects, they are illuminated by the light. So not only we see the external objects, we also see the light. So what illuminates the light? Then which means that it does not require a second light to illuminate the first one. So which means that the same light illuminates not only external, it also illuminates itself. So this light performs two functions. One to illuminate external objects, and the other to illuminate itself. So likewise, the mind, every mind that we have, it has two functions, dual functions. One to illuminate, or one to have the knowledge of the external objects, having knowledge of the external objects, and the other having the knowledge of itself. So without this knowledge, without this self-awareness or self-knowledge, self-cognizance, then the memory cannot be accounted for. We cannot account for the memory. So because when we see, then it becomes like a mirror. The mirror, the object reflects on the mirror, but this mirror is not aware that the object is reflected on itself. So therefore, it has no self-reflection. Because of the absence of self-reflection, despite everything being reflected in the mirror, but the mirror is not aware that things are reflected in it. So whereas we, unlike the mirror, we are aware that, oh, I saw this object, I heard this sound, and so forth. So here, not only the reflection, but the awareness of the reflection is also happening to you. So this awareness of the reflection is known as the self-cognizance, or the mind's ability to see itself. So it is commonly referred to as the two sides of the same coin. Say, it is the same mind. It is the same mind having the dual functions, one directed outside and the other directed inwardly. So like the two sides of the same coin, the same mind has a dual function. So from the point of view of being directed outside, it is known as the mind observing external mind. And from the point of view of being directed inwardly, it is known as the self-cognizant mind. Then if you look at the next point, it is yogic direct perception. So the yogic direct perception is a mental state which is directed towards a very subtle object, such as the impermanence, such as the emptiness of intrinsic reality, and so the selflessness and so forth. So the mind which initially was able to see the reality, see these subtle realities through learning, then through reflection, and then you gain a conviction in that. So this conviction, the first experience of the conviction that you have of how things are impermanent, how things are empty of intrinsic reality. So that still remains on the level of the conceptualization, or the concept, or the thought process, or thought level. Then through further, which means that from what we have learned earlier, thought connotes any mind which engages with the object via the mental image of the object, via the mental image. Then through further meditation on the same object, through further familiarization meditation, then we see that slowly the mental image of the object becomes more and more fine. So finally, the mental image of the object disappears altogether. So when the mental image disappears altogether, then the mind tends to see the object directly. The impermanence, the emptiness, and so forth. Although the topics, they are so subtle, but the mind is able to see them so directly. So this is known as a yogic direct perception, and this is achieved through being complemented. So this mind needs to be complemented by the experience of the combination, the union of calm abiding and special insight. So any mind which gets access to a subtle object through the combination of the calm abiding and the special insight is referred to as a yogic direct perception.
달라니 이 랑바도 쇼심도 때려요. 아니 미들 지침배네 지 통통 예시 되면도 지와라. 유지 때봐 미침배네 지치 세비지 지 통통하셔. 이나 수칭소서는 진도로서 수인에서 하마고야도 어디야? 나만이시고. 유디 세비지나 이나 수리스는 예시 되면도 메티데레서 시비도 되리야. 근데 동메지 시비들이야. 나만이시고.
So now within the direct perception, which needs a special attention, is what you can see there under the section 2, sevenfold division. We have the point 5, which is non-discerning direct perception. So this is a direct perception, but it's non-discerning. It fails to discern its object. So here, what exactly is this mental state? Is, say, when your mind is distracted by some very pleasant sound or music and so forth, then your eyes are wide open, and then you see something pass by you, but then you are totally unaware as to what that object is which passed by your eyes. And then somebody wakes you up and asks you, okay, who went past you? And then, oh, no, I'm totally unaware. So your eyes are wide open. Actually, some perception is taking place, but then this perception is a mere perception which fails to discern the object. So that is known as a non-discerning direct perception. So now to go into more detail of the point number 6 of the section 2, the sevenfold division, the doubting consciousness or the doubt. So here, even this doubt is of 3 kinds. This doubt is of 3 kinds. Say, in terms of the self being permanent or impermanent, and you are not sure. And then, if is the self permanent, and then I'm not too sure, but then maybe it is permanent. Maybe it is permanent. So there, you are not too sure. There is a doubt, but then your mind is more tilted towards being permanent, which is the mind tilted towards the erroneous side. And then, whereas you might have, okay, yeah, it is very likely it's impermanent. Very likely it's impermanent. So there, you are not too sure, but then your mind tilts towards being impermanent. So which is the valid doubt, a doubt which has some essence there, some meaning there. And the third one is the equal. Say the self is permanent, impermanent. I'm not sure. It could be 50%. It could be 50 the permanent, or maybe 50%. Is impermanent. You are not. So your mind is just there at the middle. It's not tilted any of the sides while it is still being doubt. This is known as a doubt of the doubt in the middle.
Oh, did you talk or so? Marazo said the nature of Chipa, Medova say, I don't ever to get in that. Yes, you can't get a container. Musum that Cheba chase Tani, the Langdol Jugioso. She took said the Musum between the unit she took the Esiera, and the Niki Shebe she told them what I'm just telling Musum to Tonde. And the take on the Musum between her to Ganga, Musum between them to the bed that you sent at the question, and the Chiba some of the gate of Shichiora. In the Garazo, Tamipasha and Tantuzo, Tata to send of Chicoche, Musum Latin, Tata to send of Chico, Lambaricino, Gatena, then the motor on the Tonguris and Pajo Sudo. Ataku Logicenti, Luminalian to the Langorish to Tabume get a Kangoshi with one. You could name to the dinner so motor mobile with one. Then I got to see you on Tada with one. Then I got near to the suit in air, do Docalis and the Chairman and Yapsalius may have someone. She need to go to a call. to send the some Dagua, Musum be a dinner do something could teach it, never do something to Rosha. At the name of Dray with something, I'm only 10 Rosha, the Chin and Yaga or some to the Roshan. So, Tendroina, so the Medova say, I don't ever create Musum Chilite, tell it any Cusan of Jim, to talk about Nation, the Oma, the old coaching, Corabora task, coaching to the Yola. Tinashing out to Migia, Sendi, Tana Kalas, where she engineer. Kalas to water and the Kalas, I was out to a Chichualia. Musum Lake, the Tapkate, Sakase Jabra, Kanga Hako, Sabara, Japan, Timaro. And it's about Cheva, they should have a some Cheva, some Mutan, Kalasa, some Medova said the battery into Kadajina, Musum Chilite, and it take you sell it and the chicken, that you sell it and the Hako, Mendova sent the battery Shechito. Seri was your son number doing the Agan to your Musum the Cheval Tediola. Musum Chivas, that you send Susum Napsha, Chicken and Malina, Tago de Yorno. Musum be chick there, or Titi with a teacher and Teo Gumedo some servant Shayanchi Poshi to Sluyorno. Can you go? Give you London General to make you so that Musum that Cheva, Soso Sheva, Kina and Milu Sheva, Log Sheda, Tesum that in the membership, Milu Sheva Chiki, Musum Chiki. The kids are doing that is a church, oh, that is the awesome. And the Kanga Kalukalisi Kanga Hakuluara. When I did something like middle of the day, no touch with Chichi service of the Shunga. The Korani Mother Suji Omara, saying the Mother Suji Koramada Hako Omara. Diana Fa, Setsu, Setsu, Kokarcher, Kandir, Madrid, Kandir, Madrid, Chicago, the Dara Chicago. Oh, said that Chicago, that in it, or Tina to let the city. Chimakoramado Toyo Mother Kankata, Kaling was so to get what he did. It was soon at 10 years, Chabagi. Kibulondo and Jubilee saw this, Musum that Chibani gave a shit as a Ransamba Munish Guara. Till it in a tar to set the Dala Yovici, then a Tarvasiguara, Tarvasido Carso de Cheba, some Numo said the charges Ransamba Chitera, some Numo said the charge. Or Tiliatico, Tardo de Leanco Ransam Munish, Chache to get to Tochachi over the essay. What was the Ransation over the essay?
So here now the summarizing what we did already. So we see that all happiness that we seek and the miseries or the pain, the fears to be abandoned. So they are all how successful you are in these endeavors is dependent on how wisely you are able to employ the first two of the mental states of the second section, sevenfold division. The first one is direct perception, and the other one is inferential cognition. So how much you are able to use these two mental states, to that extent your happiness is achieved, and to that extent is your miseries eliminated. So how do we go about doing that? Is that first we have to start with the direct perception. Say you see one particular object which is so visible, which is so evident in your eyes or to your ears or whatever, evident phenomena with your direct perception. You start from there. We should start from the direct perception. And then from there you try to infer the subtler objects. You try to infer the subtler objects like impermanence, emptiness and so forth. You try to infer the subtle objects. Then after inferring the subtle objects, then we habituate in that understanding, and then this direct perception gives rise to a subtler inferential cognition, which through familiarization will again turn into direct perception. So that process is what we need to keep in mind. We begin from direct perception, then we'll go deeper into the inferential cognition, which in turn will be transformed into direct perception in relation to the sub-object. Say for example, the Venerable Geshe Yeshe Thabkhe, our teacher, he used to, in Manali once, he noticed a very old cow. So this very old cow, and even this old cow, although does not have any kind of sharp faculty of reasoning and so forth, but even this cow also uses his own, in his own ways, the whatever little capacity of reasoning he has, he uses that. So how he always passes by the road, the highway, at one particular time. And then that time there are so many vehicles, cars coming by. So this cow would make sure that he doesn't go to a place where the cars they drove in numerous number. So because that he senses that by going there, then he will, you know, he will meet with accident, right? So through all these reasonings, he would make sure that, okay, so by going along this side, then I'll be safe. So even, you know, as animals, they also use this faculty of reasoning, inference to make sure that you achieve the happiness that you are seeking, that you don't encounter with the misery which you shun, right? And then also, when he's passing by the same road, when he sees the leaves, the tree leaves, when they are just hanging and nearby, then he would grab at it and eat them. Whereas it's high up there, then he would just give up. So even all reasonings are being, you know, calculated, and even in among the animals. So we are the human beings. So we surely employ the reasonings and the direct perceptions to achieve our happiness and to shun the miseries which we dislike. So to give one example of the preparing food, you are hungry and you like to eat food, and even with the food, then you just prepare a very simple food, a very small amount of food, and then you won't really put a handful of salt in it. So because it will spoil the whole food. So by all these reasonings in a very proper calculation, then we will know how to achieve the happiness, the desired happiness which you seek, and you can do away with the miseries which you shun. And then, for example, the scientists nowadays, they are talking about, they are actually going into the space and they send the spaceships to the planets and so forth. So these are all done through proper calculation. So this calculation is actually done on the basis of the inference. So we see that in whatever thing that you seek to achieve, so this can wisely or this can intelligibly be achieved by resorting to the first two perceptions, direct perception and the inferential perception. And then, for example, another example would be like, say, a murder case. So the one who is murdered and the murderer. So these two people, they were actually, in the actual event of the act, just these two people were there. And the one who witnessed the person A killing B is the person B himself. Other than that, there's no one else. Just these two. And the person B is now no more the witness because the person B is already died, right? So the person A alone knows that, but then the detectives, how they do is that they look for some clues. So the clues, they're actually looking for the reference, you know, inference. They're looking for the inference. Then the moment they get one clue, well, at that point, where are you? And at that point, where are you? And then there's some kind of inconsistencies here. Then this detective would pick up that as the inference. Then from there, he will infer something deeper, and deeper. And then finally, the actual act of killing, the murder, can well be established by the detector, although the detector have not seen that event. So we see that even to accomplish the subtler realities which seem to be totally outside your the capability to know that, but then through inference we can get there. So it is very important that we should know as to how the direct perception and the inferential cognition, these two work, and how these two are to be generated. So by resorting to these two things, then all your desired objectives can be accomplished, and all you dislike can be abandoned. So as said earlier, as to how we start from the direct perception, we see something so evident object. We begin from the direct perception. then you use these knowledge as the precursor or the reference or the inference to infer deeper realities. Once you get to the deeper realities, and then we habituate in their experience, and then their experience of the deeper realities, they will eventually become so manifest in your mind, which again will turn out to be direct perception. So we start from direct perception, and then it will lead you towards a deeper inferential cognition, which in turn will end up into direct perception. So that is extremely important to know. So therefore, in all our actions, that you engage in to make yourself, to seek happiness and to avoid misery and to take any kind of decisions, ranging from very simple to the most sophisticated and most dangerous the decisions. So there we should know how to employ the direct perception and the inferential cognition so well. Otherwise, many times we fail to employ these too well, and then simply we have some people around you, and then you have to make a very important decision, and then these people to deceive you. They are being very flattery, they talk very nice, sweet words to you, and then you are being deceived by cheated by these people. Then you yourself not resorting to the inferential cognition, not resorting to the direct perception, just simply being swayed by the nice, sweet words of the flattery words of the other people. Then in the end, you end up with misery, terrible misery, and then you regret a lot. It's all because of our failure to use the psychology, this knowledge of the psychology into our daily life. So therefore, it is extremely important that even when you go to do shopping or anything that you engage in, if we can do that by resorting to the understanding of what is direct perception, what is inferential cognition, then whatever you do becomes very successful. Otherwise, you can end up in very erroneous the conclusions, erroneous the results. So therefore, it is said that to avoid confusion in relation to the subject matter, the meaning of our thoughts, we should know the psychology, and to avoid the confusion in relation to the vocabularies or the language, we need to know the art of the language.
저지 거라 담을 다시 해야 다 돼요. 저 소리네 가도 가르스도 간데나 좀 소소들 거 따지 제 누가 예배지. 싫으면 예배지. 근데 지 차샤우도. 뒤에서 간데에 섬잡다 내는 봐줘야 섬다 주줘야 섬다나 노게 매문에도 소소 싫어고 야시도 돼요. 당분에 저를 지금 농사는 봐줘야 예배에 매배에 고태게 요마를 나도서 남바티라는 시 로샤르자 뒤에 가두이나 로소르네 제 따지 셰셰 남게 쉬이는 가리네 따지 셰셰 무슨 담매게와 다양다도 매게와 어떤데 돈을 망도 시에비나 아니 지된디 쇼 자와이나다 다르고 탐지지 뭐 줍시 내주시에 한글 편도 있어도 도시 누가 해 야 소아도
So therefore, it is said that even when you listen to discourses, oh, this is said by the Buddha, this is said by the Bodhisattva, this is said by this great scholar, simply because that is stated by a particular great person, you are not to take it blindly. If you take it blindly, or simply because it is said by this person, which means that you are not at all objective in the pursuit. So whether it is even Buddhist teachings or whatever you are trying to listen to, you have to listen to with a very unbiased state of mind. Your mind should not be tilted that towards any kind of belief system. You should not start with the particular belief system. So this is how we should be engaging. We should always start with an unbiased state of mind, and then see, okay, if I go towards side A, then what is the consequence like? If I turn towards side B, what is the consequence like? Then if you examine, analyze so well as to the consequences, as to the benefits or whatever, by following the two sides so well, then you will know exactly where to follow, how to follow, where to follow. So that way you will not end up yourself in the erroneous these situations. So anything, whether in the mundane engagements or spiritual engagements, in any kind of engagement, it is extremely important to use your common sense, use your rational faculty so well, so that that you don't end up in erroneous and unwanted results. So the Buddha said a very important stanza in relation to what we have discussed this evening. He said that, O monks and wise people, just as the goldsmith tests the purity of the gold by cutting, rubbing, and burning the gold, you should also examine my words and put them into practice, but not simply because you respect me. So what the Buddha is actually indicating here is not that, oh, I don't know anything, you know more, so you analyze. This is not the indication. What he's encouraging us is that just as he employed the direct perception and the inferential cognition, you also have that faculty. You also have the faculty of direct perception and the inferential cognition. Why don't you resort? Why don't you employ this? Why don't you nurture the two so that you can be a self-sufficient person to gain a conviction deep within yourself, not be dependent on others. So this is encouragement given by the Buddha. So the thing is that we all have this the faculty of the direct perception and the inferential cognition. So the only thing is that we need to nurture them. To nurture them, we need to employ them. Only by employing to these two, we can nurture these two faculties. By nurturing, then we become someone who is so self-sufficient, and then the path or the happiness that we seek is what we can, in actuality, can achieve. Or otherwise, if we do not need, if we are not to resort to these two faculties, well, the direct perception and the inferential cognition, then if we simply have to rely on someone else or depend on someone else, then why not, why not we have books which says that, only which the things which are, or this is this, A to A, B, 3, without any analysis. Okay, so this is this should be like this because in the book A it says that. Then this should be, it should not be like this because in book B the list of which are not, it said that it is not, right? So, but then it does not help. So therefore, what really from all these things we see that the need for us to employ, to nurture, to enhance our own faculty of the direct perception and the inferential cognition. This is extremely important.